we are going to talk about the 3 things that you can be doing inside of the affiliate to create a massive amount of momentum, headway, and ultimately grow your gym. We've worked with, I don't know, millions of
affiliates.
things. We've worked with millions of things in our lives.
That's accurate.
That is accurate. No, but there's obviously common themes that we see that are kind of like a recurring theme that walks in the door and be like, hey, I'm struggling with this, but they genuinely and generally always come down to, less things rather than more. And we're going to talk about 3 of them today. So the 3 things we're going to talk about today, number 1 is you got to know your numbers, right? Number 2 is time allocation. This is a big one, right? Meaning like working on the right thing, making the main thing. And the 3rd one is planning. And I just found out recently that you like to plan things.
Who told you that?
You did. You literally said, I like to plan things.
What's interesting is I planned on telling you that I like to plan.
Well, that is confirmation.
Did I tell you I like to plan things?
You did when we were talking about our special event.
Yeah. In that sense, yes.
But this is the same thing, and I think if people look at it through a different lens, planning takes a whole new meaning, and then now becomes an actionable thing. And that's.
Do you want to start there?
Where do you want to start? They're all super important.
Let's go planning, because I think what I enjoy about that. Are we not saying what that is?
We cannot say what that is yet.
Legally.
For any reason, we could, because it's not a thing yet, but B,
the thing that we know of.
But
what I like about planning, and I think you can, these all have like a Venn diagram, right?
Correct.
Time management, money planning. What I like about what we were discussing, which will eventually be public knowledge.
Yeah. Everybody will know about it when it's out.
It's very similar to training. I like having a goal and working backwards to it, especially when you have a long trajectory, so it can be something epic.
Right. And if you think about that, like who doesn't want their affiliate to be epic? Nobody. Like nobody's waking up in the morning and be like, yeah, I hope I suck today. So if we think about like what would be baseline level planning to have an epic year and make it easy to facilitate, planning now sounds kind of fun, right? If I told you, I was just like, hey, we're going to plan out your year. There's going to be killer events and it's going to be relatively easy to do. And this plan is built on this overall strategy of growth. Who's in? Everybody's in, right?
And I'll throw one more layer to that. Do it once and see it happen. And you're like, oh, I'm going to do that again.
That's the pro version, which is now I look at what I just did, just like I would look at like my logbook and be like, how could I make this better the following year? Because now I have a ton of data, which bleeds over into know your numbers, So planning wise, let's get into planning, because I think this is really important. And I think this is one of the biggest pain points for affiliates that they're unaware of. And here's how you know. If you are reactive to everything that happens in the gym, if you're reactive to launching apparel, if you're reactive to putting your holiday party together, if you're reactive to putting together outbound promotion strategies, meaning, and when I mean reactive, like you're like, oh shit, we need to do that. And then we spin it up in 2 weeks and then we launch it. And there was nothing already planted out in front on the counter that says, hey, this is coming up in 30, 60, 90, 120 days. What are the things that I need to get in order to make that happen? This is how you know you're reactive. Like if you have the thought and then you go do it, that's reactive, meaning like you're reacting to that thought versus I sat down, I put together a full cohesive thought over the course of my year. And now I don't have those anymore. It's equivalent to, we're here at Sanitas, CrossFit Sanitas in Boulder, and that'd be in just doing, content for the knowledge, doing some evaluations on classes. That reactive state would be akin to walking out on the floor, no plan, and having a plan of like, oh shit, I should probably get their ankles warmed up for pistols today. I'd be like, that's the same thing. Like that is going to be subpar and have the opposite of the outcome that you're looking for.
And I think affiliate owners do this well. One place that's important, one place that's not. One being the open, Murph, etc. They plan.
Right.
Everyone knows the Open's coming. So either I know Fridays I need to be prepared. I look at the workout that comes out Thursday, etc. Murph, how many affiliates, whether it's programming they're following or their own, are like, hey, it's April, we should do more pull-ups, push-ups, and squats. And then the place where I think they do it well, although it's less important, is when they run a competition. Like
Maybe, but yes.
but they're if a competition happens, some planning went down.
Right.
And I say that it's not important because I'm not a fan of having competitions at most affiliates.
If you have the rest of your year lined out and everything's planned up, meaning like there's cohesion across types of events, flavors of events, there's a logical number of events on there. Listen, throw a competition on there. I've run one for the past 5 years.
Yeah, but you also have a lot of other things happening correctly at Rife, where most affiliate owners are like, we don't have a budget, we don't manage our time, but a competition would be fun, or our members want that. And my argument is, no, they don't.
Well, they do.
Or if they do, they can go do it at another gym.
Right.
That's got it dialed in.
So the planning part doesn't have to be super complex, by the way. And I don't think it should be on the outset, right? So if I ask you a question, I'm like, what's the minimum amount of information that you would need to see on a lesson plan? Like, you can't give me any more than...
Whiteboard brief, general, specific, workout time. I mean, sure, if you say minimum, what time are you saying 3, 2, 1, go?
Okay, great, right?
Like,
So it's
that's
just
really like the bare
I know when
minimum.
the class starts, I know when the class ends, and then I know when I have to say go. Okay.
Now, ideally, maybe a couple more hash marks for the transition.
Start with the minimum, though. This is why you make something like planning your year fairly simple,
Cool.
which is like, hey, I know when the year starts. I know when the year ends. What is the 1 or 2 pillar events that I'm going to put the most amount of energy into?
Right, your anniversary party or your holiday party,
Right.
and your in-house comp.
Maybe those 2 things. Okay, cool. So those 2 things go on the calendar. And if you only did that in your first year or iteration of this, those 2 things would probably go very well. Because if I ask you a follow-on question, I'm like, what are the things that you would want to happen in conjunction with both of those events, right? So let's stick with your competition and your gym anniversary. Like, what are the things that you want to see in order for those things to be amazing?
Well, we need to know when we're going to announce them.
Okay. What else?
Are we charging for them?
Cool.
Let's take just one, the competition. Is it individual? Is it teams? Is
Right.
it co-ed?
Right.
Let's take the party. Where is it happening?
Right.
Are people buying tickets?
Right.
Are we doing awards?
This is my point, everybody. We literally just picked a random imaginary date, and all of a sudden what that does is it creates a whole
And that
series.
just scratched the surface.
We just scratched the surface. But the point is like we just created an entire list of action items off of that way ahead of time, so that I'm not being reactive to this and I can promote it appropriately. And here's why the promotion and doing these things seamlessly is really important. Number one, they should be part of your growth plan for your affiliate. I mean, like they should be helping me grow my gym. Okay. Whether that's branding or, we're doing a partnership with somebody, or we're trying to attach some sort of new client goal to this, whatever. That, and if I plan them appropriately, they should get easier every year, at which point people enjoy them more
There'd
and
be
more.
a lot of cut and pastes.
Correct.
Can I throw this concept out there? Because
Yep.
I think this would work. Tell me what you think. Hormozy talks about inverting. So, and take the party.
Yep.
What would have to happen for this party to fail?
Right.
Well, I wouldn't tell anybody about it.
I would do everything.
Right. So, but even the first one, I wouldn't tell anybody. So let's tell everybody.
Right. How would we do that?
Right. I would not have a place for it. So let's get a place. I
Right.
would have really shitty food.
Right.
Let's get good food. Like,
That sounds like a great party.
that
Let's
sounds
plan
like
this
every
party.
college party I went to. But I think that's I think that's for someone struggling to think about what to do. Like, think about
What would make this a
how would I
nightmare?
failed at this.
Yeah, what would make this a nightmare? Nobody would show up, right? I wouldn't tell
Yeah.
anybody ahead of time. I
I
would
would
do
lose a lot of money.
yeah, I would. Yeah, it would cost me more than I would like it to. It would all be last minute, and it would all be on me.
Yeah, and there's, I mean, so much more. We'd have it at a rundown hotel. And
Right.
right, like, there's all these other little things where if you're just like, cool, well, if I simply don't do those things, all of a sudden this is a great party. And same for your in-house. Like, what would I do? Well, those same concepts, but then I would program really terrible workouts.
Yeah, the workouts would create judging and standard problems for me.
Right. I wouldn't run it on time.
I'd have way too many divisions.
This is fun. Yeah.
So now, how do you simplify all this? Is like start simple, right? Because I think we always forget, just like we forget with our athletes. I'm like, you have this year, and then you have next year, and then you have the year after that. Now,
It's like programming,
right?
like-
And what makes this really fun is if I start thinking on longer timelines, what happens is I relieve myself of a tremendous amount of pressure in the immediate future, because the goal isn't to have all of those things in year one. The goal is to have them all in year three. So I don't need to do all of that in year one. I just need to do a couple of things in year one. I'm like, we're going to get this version of it done. We're going to check those boxes. And then next year, we're going to layer some things on top of it.
Well, like my very first party, and I'm sure yours too, is like at the gym. Right? And then it was like, cool, we did it at the gym, but we brought in different lights. And
Right.
then it was, hey, we're going to the Holiday Inn.
Right.
And then it was, hey, we're doing it at the Holiday Inn, open bar, open next year award. Like that was a 7-year evolution.
And this is my point, which is just start with the basics, just like you do with your lesson plan. Nobody writes their first lesson plan that looks like Denise Thomas wrote it. You're just like, I've got 3 timestamps on here that are important.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to try to hit one of them. Right. And that's going to be, I'm going to start the workout on time. Like maybe won't start the class on time and maybe I'll end a little late, but like I'm going to try to get this class started at 33 minutes or whatever it is. And ultimately, what the shift that starts to happen when you put this planning process in place is you become much more proactive, and you go from head down to eyes up with the affiliate. And eyes up is the best place to be. I'm seeing all the things that are happening. I'm making the real-time adjustments, and I'm not just staring at the floor. The floor is reactive, which is like, we're trying to get this t-shirt design out. And I'm like, there's so many things wrong with just the fact that you're doing all of those things on short notice that we just need to pump the brakes a little bit and just give a longer runway.
Which allows you to, you bleed into, everything else we discussed, but it's by knowing that you prioritize and you're not going to be distracted. Like we talk about it internally a lot. Cool. We want to make that happen. Well, what of these things needs
Do we have to
give up or push behind? Or if we have this party coming and someone is like, hey, I want to do a gymnastics certification. Cool. Well, where do we do that? Knowing I have to allocate my time for this.
And this is like the hidden, like secondary or tertiary benefit of having a plan is it is your defense mechanism against the good idea fairy. Which is exactly what we were talking about. Like, hey, we need to do this, and we have to do a fundraiser for it's 3-legged dog month, and you're like, I
did have a 3-legged dog.
Right, this is my point.
R.I.P.
So,
Marley.
right. So what happens is because you already have something laid out that is strategic in nature, that is something that you designed, that is a full thought, it's much easier to say we can't fit that in. Like there's just nowhere for us to make that happen. Versus if I've just got an open book because I didn't plan anything. Every idea that comes to me
You want to do.
is kind of like, well, I could do it. At which point you now start forcing the issue on things that are not a priority, that are not your ideas, by the way.
Well, and this is also whether you're the owner or a coach. Internally, Cody, Christian, and I started implementing a pull system. And I think I might have, but it's pull system being these are the 3 things we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is here, but you can't push us something. We pull up the next thing. But the benefit of that is if I'm like, Christian, I need this, I can go to his document and he's like, well, he's working on these 3 things.
Right.
So if I want to hand him this, I need to know what's going to slow down or disappear. And you can do that from a coaching. Hey, Vern's my coach. And he's like, I really wanted celebrate three-legged dog month.
Right.
And you're like, cool, you see the things I'm working on. Which one do you want to get rid of?
He's like, oh, we can't do that.
Yeah, and you're like, well, we got to have this party.
Right.
But do you want to, three-legged dogs, they're more important than this party. No, they're not, right? Like,
Yeah.
so it's, I think that was a really valuable tool that we started implementing because you can appreciate what other people are doing and you see the big picture.
And the big picture is important, right? In the planning, because here's also what happens as you start to plan this out, as you start to bring in the rest of your staff on this process, because they know there are already things lined out. They don't bring you additional things out of nowhere. They're like, they've already subconsciously made the decision. They're like, we can't do that. We're already doing all these things over here. Like, I'm not bringing them that
It's
idea.
like your lesson plan. Here's the workout. Well, we need to throw in, part A.
We're gonna do Amanda.
B, C, right?
Like,
it's like, where is that? Well, yeah, this class is gonna take 45 minutes, right? But that lesson plan is the analogy for your
for the year.
And
that's the way, that's the way I like to teach it, which is like, you already know how to write a lesson plan. You write your year the same way, right? The year starts in January, or if you want to start right now, your year starts in
May.
March, right? Like whatever.
We're in April. So.
Starts back in the future.
Let's assume the
just
point is if you don't have one now, it's
month
time to
12.
start.
Yeah, start month, because it doesn't need to be January to December, but like it does help. Once you get into a rhythm, it makes more sense.
Finish this year, then start again.
Start now, right? Or just go through the next quarter, right? Just get through this quarter, plan out this quarter. But make that lesson plan. Hey, this is start, this is finish. What's the one or two things that must happen in here? And they're typically event based. But what the cool part about all of this is, as you start to get those ironed out and you create documents and systems, you can start handing those off because, hey, it's the same thing. Like, these are the vendors we used last year for the party. This was the budget that we spent. Stay inside of that. Here's what we charge. This is when we sent the RSVPs out. This was the copy that we used for the email. Like, put the new pictures in there, like roll it out. I can hand that to anybody. And all of a sudden I'm completely removed from that. And it's probably happening at a more efficient pace and done better than, because that was like 10th on my list. And now that's somebody else's like 1 or 2 priority,
I was saying we had a great call. It was yesterday for our year 2 people, anyone that's been with Affiliate U for longer than a year. And part of it was, hey, it was like April 2nd. So I was like, it's Q2. And I said, everybody's got to have one thing they want to get done by the end of, June 30th. It looks like I finished this.
Right.
So 2 things happened. One, people wrote down that task. I was like, cool, what can you do? What does success look like May 31st, April 30th, and today? What can you do today? Because for a lot of this, the challenge is it's a daunting task.
Right.
Whether it's a party, a competition. And 2 things happen. One, these big tasks, for example, Dan wanted to write out job descriptions for every coach. And I was like, that is a big task. What does it look like by this time? Well, I've had meetings with every coach. What does it look like by this time? We'll be ready to go, and now I'm just watching it. But then someone like, there was 2 funny ones. One was Michelle, CrossFit Tempe. She was like, there's a basketball hoop in the gym.
I want to get rid of it.
But worse than that, she's like, someone jumped up and kicked a hole in the wall.
Oh.
And I was like, well, that is why you should get, chalk this up under, this does not belong in a CrossFit affiliate. Right. Nothing good. No one joined here because of that hoop.
It's only going to have an injury.
So she was like, well, I want to learn how to drywall. And I was like, Michelle, do you think that is the best use? I was like, how much would it cost to hire someone?
Or just ask one of your members.
Yeah.
Like, anybody here good with drywall?
But this was like this massive task in her head.
Yeah.
And no joke, 8 minutes later, she put her virtual hand back up. She's like, someone's coming in later today to fix the hole in the wall.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm happy you did that. I'm disappointed you weren't paying attention to the call. But it was like, point being, I think in our heads, it's like we suffer more in imagination than in reality, right? This is this massive thing. Or just go on Craigslist or whatever people use these days.
And this is a whole topic separately, but this is so I got another long email the other day. I was just like, hey, I got to give you all this context to this thing. And I was like, you can give it to me. I probably don't need it.
Yeah.
Because based on what you're telling me.
One of my coaches slept with a member. It was
just like, hey, I got this problem. And I was like, hey, listen, before you tell me, it's probably just going to be me saying you need to get rid of that person, right? And the full context. And I'm like, and I took it and I was just like, hey, thank you for providing all the context. It's pretty much exactly what I thought you were going to say. You were worried I've never seen this before. I'm like, it's the fourth time I've seen it this week.
That
And
is
I
so
said, I'm
funny.
going to summarize this for you in one sentence. And he was just like, oh God, you're right. And I'm like, yeah, you made it out to be, there's characters in the story and, one has this role and this thing. And I was like, or this guy's a turd, is crushing your culture and you need to tell him to leave. So I was just like, and I put in that sentence, like, so when are we doing that? What day? That's how simple that was.
That's what's so fun about our masterminds.
Right.
Because you see that, like,
Right.
not just over Zoom,
Right.
but literal light bulbs
Yeah.
going off.
So, and the beauty of this, to go back to the planning part, is start with the basics, and then it becomes much more intricate, like your lesson plans. Now, because once you get past, you're like, okay, here's these couple of events that we're going to do, the Christmas party, the competition. Then it's like, okay, these are all of our bring a friend weeks. These are our apparel launches. These are our outbound promotional strategies that we're going to have on here. These are our facility projects, and it gets really, really complex. But it doesn't feel that way because you started with the simple things and then you slowly started to add pieces to that. I was sitting down with somebody on the other team the other day, and I said, regardless of whether we hit any of our quant metrics this year, right? Revenue, members, this will very likely end up being our best year ever, just purely from a standpoint of operational efficiency.
Well, and it's like your lesson plan. If you are proficient at group management, now I've got more time to see and correct.
It gets so much easier because you start planning things out. People have control of things. They're getting done. It requires less of my time and attention, but I have oversight over them. And then all of a sudden I can focus on the more important things, or we can just layer on more, or, hey, I like what we're doing here. Let's do a much better version of that. Like, let's overhaul that specific thing, whether it's, hey, what's the communication plan with the clients? Hey, we need to do a full overhaul in the newsletter or whatever. But all of that comes with the plan. So planning is the first one, guys. Planning is the first one.
One last thing on that, we have a lot of clients that stick with us for more than a year, and they've gone through the curriculum.
More than 60%.
Yeah, and I'm like, hey, let's redo that one.
Yeah.
And they're like, why? I'm like,
that was minimal viable product.
Yeah,
out of
and
the door.
You're so much a better leader, a better coach. And then they go through it. You mentioned that one because of the client communication lesson, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, like this can be so much better.
Yeah.
And now their first iteration, they may do 4, 5, 6 lessons in a sprint. Sometimes like this one, so we can make it so badass. A, you can delegate it. B, you never have to look at it again. It's really important to revisit those things.
So homework, if you're not doing this already, look at the calendar for the next 12 months. Start today, as of you watching this podcast. Fast forward out 12 months. Get those 3 things. Hey, start, finish. What's the 1 to 2 big ticket items that I want to happen in that time frame? It doesn't have to be an event. It could be a price increase. It could be whatever you want. It doesn't matter, right? You get to choose what those significant events are, or those significant timestamps are there, and then start planning those. Like you said earlier, just like work backwards and start to getting all the things in place so that when that day comes, everything is smooth. Okay. Now, the second one is, which is aided by the first one, and I wanted to bring this up because I know this is something you have been, how would I say?
Awesome. Amazing.
Definitely not the word I was looking for.
Virtuous? Was it virtuous?
Virtual, I think it was the word. No, but so time allocation.
Better at.
I think it's always been something that has been important or a focus for you, at least call it in the last 5 years for sure. Since you and I have been doing the podcast and then doing affiliate.
Well, I think it's one of those things where the busier you get, the better you have to get. And you throw a wife
or you
and
just
2
fail.
kids
Yeah.
into it. Like you definitely have to, like you said to me one time, kids will make you more efficient. And I don't know if you get more efficient, you just get better at allocating your time.
Well, it's the subtraction by addition piece, right? Just like, oh, I just put 2 more people into this equation, which means I just don't have time to do the other things now. Oh, I was going to do this. I'm like, I guess I'm going to T-ball practice now because that's just what has to happen. So that planning then helps with time allocation, because if I have a plan, it's pretty obvious what I'm supposed to be working on.
And shout out to Marcus. Marcus I think for both of us on this. You and I, like,
Yes.
slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Yep.
Where you and I are like, no, fast is fast.
Fast is fast, and faster is fastest. But that time allocation and listen, there's so many levels just to time allocation. And for the record, you can get real stupid with time allocation, meaning like it just becomes time allocation now becomes burdensome to your life, and it's no longer.
I've been there. You have to find a system that works for you.
Yeah. So I don't think there is a right system, but
I've
think
got the right one.
but I think what I think is just recognition that most of us, most affiliate owners, if I look at my calendar, it in no way, shape, or form reflects my priorities. Going back to like the calendar, meaning like, hey, show me your calendar and I'll show you what's important to you.
Yeah, like, again, this call, because I've been digging into this even more lately with moving around in the business and wanting to be more effective and efficient. Let me give some of the systems I'm using. Is that cool?
Are they yours or you stole them from somewhere?
Mostly stole, but I think like any good cue, right?
Give credit.
I'll give Cal Newport.
Cal Newport.
Deep work. He's got a new book called Slow Productivity. And a couple things, and I gave this to the year 2 call yesterday. One, I keep a note on my phone that I titled Bandwidth. Come up with your catchy name.
It's just ideas.
It's anything that pops into my head.
Yeah, I've had one of those for years.
Yeah, but like I used to have like a best hour one, a personal one. It's like this note is easy to access, and it could be something as simple as like remind Roz we need literally like a new shelf in the refrigerator.
Right.
But it's off because I think for any entrepreneur, your brain never shuts off, and it's more always just trying to remember your ideas.
Or not forget.
Yeah, or not forget. So I keep that, but then the important part too to that is at the end of every day, I put them in the appropriate places. So on Trello, right? And if you want to learn more about Trello, email Katie directly. She will help.
Please. Katie.Steinspring.
Katie@Trello.com. and I have a personal board and a work board.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, for the most part, work is best hour. Once in a while, an HQ thing, like I've got a seminar coming up, right? But it's almost always like what the podcasts are. And then it's like this week, next week, today. And then the big one is Sunday night, looking at the calendar for the week. And then every night, looking at the next day. But I plug in way too much information, like wake up, drink my coffee, workout. Like you look at my calendar and you're like, this is a crazy person. But to Jocko, discipline equals freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, if you looked at my calendar, you would know exactly who I am. You'd be like, oh, this guy works out, he works on his business, and he spends time with his kids.
Yeah. And I think now that version seems overwhelming. People are like, this is ridiculous. Why do I have to put all that shit in there?
Because if you don't, those gaps in your calendar become gaps.
Well, it's also there's a level of self accountability that needs to be recognized. Meaning, it's very similar to I don't need to put that workout in my logbook, and I would argue that you do. Like that is a level of personal accountability that you are tracking or you're not. If you're tracking it, that means that it's significantly more important to you than if you're not tracking it. Quantifiably, how much? I don't know. Also, who gives a shit? I just know it's more important to you if you're tracking it.
What's important gets measured, right?
And it gets measured, and then it will get done. More importantly, so as we're looking at time allocation, how do I determine where I allocate my time? Well, some of that is depending on what did you establish as the things you wanted to accomplish. Refer back to the plan. We're keeping this very simple. And then looking at your day and saying, does my day reflect getting from here to there? And if it doesn't, then I just do a wash on it and I say, how can I change my day? The number of gym owners that don't think that they can shift their schedule because of X, Y, or Z problem. Nobody can take those classes. I'm the only person on planet Earth that can teach that class and blah, 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 blah. And I said, this is a great exercise for everybody. Anytime you are doing schedule changes, meaning we've had this conversation, this gym owner has come to the conclusion, they're like, I need to allocate a 4-hour block of time to get these 3 tasks done on a weekly basis, whatever that is. Doesn't even matter what it is. How do you get that? And every single time I've done this, I'm batting 1,000 on this one. get everybody who's involved in the room, present the problem to them, present the desired outcome, and group problem solve. You do not need to do that on your own
Mm.
because you're only limited by your assumptions and what you know of the situation, which if there's 4 of us involved, meaning there's 4 coaches on the schedule, that's only 25% of the information. Get everybody in there and say, hey, this is what I'm looking to achieve here. This is the current problem. All solutions are on the table. Present me with anything and everything. It doesn't matter how wacky it is, to include canceling classes, everybody's fired, we hire 100 new people. It doesn't matter if we could do it or not. It goes on the table. And every time they walk out of there, I'm like, oh, it was an easy shift. So-and-so took this, we shifted around, and then now I'm able to do this thing. That's literally step number 1, is solve for that very specific block of time. And then what'll happen is you start to protect that time and be like, okay, I'm not giving that time up.
Well, and that's part of the reason I put so much on there, thinking from the affiliate owner perspective is, okay, I got to go work on my business from, there's a 9 a.m. class I coach and then a noon class.
Right.
So from 10 to 12, I'm working. What inevitably happens at the end of that 9 a.m. class?
People hang around.
Yeah. And then what do you know about the noon class? I have to be ready at 11:45.
Right.
But for me, my calendar will pop up. Oh, shoot. At 10 a.m., I've got an appointment with myself.
Right.
Hey, for instance, at least it's a reminder that I got to get going. I'm not going to just be like, I got to go. But it's a reminder of, I've got this. So internally for us, every week you and I review homework and review books. And I would notice every week it would be looming stress for me until I was like, I'm just putting it in my calendar at the beginning. I look at it's one of the things that can float because it's on my time.
Move it over.
But I can move it around. But by putting it, I'm like, oh, cool. Thursdays, 1:00. That's when it's going to happen. Now I'm not stressed about it anymore.
Right. I got to get it in.
Yeah.
I got 3. I got to go review it now. So the time allocation is important because as an affiliate owner, your time, your energy, your emotion, your resources have to get divvied up across your family or your friends, if you don't have an immediate family, your coaching staff, and your clients. And in order to...
And yourself, I'll throw in there.
Yeah, I should have put that one at the top. In order to do that, you have to start getting at least semi-rigid about...
Being rigid, I personally...
I was going to say semi-hard, but...
But think about... I think when you use either word, semi-hard or rigid, it makes people feel like I don't want to be non-flexible, but it truly makes you more flexible. I don't know if you agree with this. Do I appear less stressed in the last year?
Yeah, but I think it's because you don't do anything.
Because I'm so good at it. No, I think...
So good at time allocation.
I think I look at my day and I'm like, cool,
Do I seem less stressed?
No, you seem... Because you're doing all the work I'm not doing. No, but here's a great example. Macros for me.
Yep.
Like I've dropped 30 pounds and I track and I came in here with a scale.
Meaning this gym?
Yeah, that's over there.
Okay.
And
It's weird.
no, it's not for me because...
It's weird for me. It's weird for everybody else.
Right. GC and Josh, the GM, were like, you got a scale to measure that banana? And I'm like, yeah, because it's what I do. Right. Like,
Yeah.
And this is even though I'm in Boulder, this is an unusual day for me to leave the house. I left the house at like 8 this morning and I won't be home, till the evening. And I was like, oh, I got to think about my food and I got to pack. It was cumbersome. It was time consuming, but I was like, this is who I am. I track my food. And because of that, I'm a happier, less stressed person.
Right.
Like
right.
tracking food doesn't make me ornery or make my life harder. It makes my life better.
Not tracking your food makes you
fat, which then
correct.
True
Makes you ornery.
And then I'm not happy.
Right.
So
right. This is my point.
And it's like being on so different than your calendar. Like being on top of that may seem rigid, but it will allow you to be. For me, it's also like cool when it's bath time for Madison. I'm like fully in it, right? Like not in the bathtub. I'm like in it with her. I'm like cool, like because I know there's a place here.
Right. And I think the value there is there's something that every gym owner is struggling with that's causing them some sort of frustration or pain. And if you want to solve that problem, I need to give it the attention that it deserves. In order to do that, I need to start figuring out how do I apply my time, energy, and resources. I don't know, because I don't know if this has been your experience, but this continues to be my experience is something's causing me stress or pain, and I've made up in my mind that it's going to make up a time, a duration of time for me to fix said problem. And then I allocate this duration of time, and it takes me 1/5
That
of
was like Michelle.
of duration of
I
time.
got to fix this hole in the wall. I got to learn how to drywall. I'm
Right.
like, do you have $100? Like, go,
Right.
right? Or Brian Page at Eureka. I guess Bailey Rail is coming to do a class.
Oh, she's
right?
doing some sort of tour or something like that.
Yeah, and he was like, "Oh, I gotta get a stencil, and I gotta put up I want to put a logo up for the picture." And I was like,
Oh.
"Well, what can you do right now?" He's like, and literally, he texted me yesterday, the logo was stenciled on the wall.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes you just need that. It's funny because as affiliate owners, we're so good at doing this for our members when it comes to their fitness, but then so bad at doing it for yourself.
Really, really bad. And I think, there are tools that can help you, whether it's calendars or using project management platforms like Asana or Trello or anything that has some sort of Scrum type function to it, whatever that tool is for you. But then using that tool to help you prioritize, stay on track, all the things. And the beauty here, and here's the real hidden secret behind using tools like that is those tools are how you delegate. Because everything's just running around Ackerman's head. Nobody wants to be in there, by the way.
That's crazy stuff.
Real crazy. So, but if I have everything outlined in there, I've got checklists and documents and hyperlinks, and here's the thing. I'm like, hey, here's everything. Hey, record a couple Loom videos on how it works. Hey, we're going to meet on this next week. Let me know if you have any questions. And if you get time, bring a draft with you. I want to see you do it. Here's everything you're ever going to need. Here's where you find the information. Here's the template. Here's how you do it. Here's a video walkthrough of how I did it. And then come back, and they're going to come back and be like, yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to be done. And they're like, well, the font could have been a little bit different. I'm like, great, who cares? But the point is that got done because it was important to you. But even more importantly, you're not now doing it. Now you get to recalibrate what is important. Because most of the time when you start working through this, the important things are not really important. They're emergent.
That's like the Eisenhower matrix.
Correct.
Like, this is not important, but my house is on fire.
It's emergent.
Right. So it's like I need to handle
So understand that as you start to work through this process, it almost always starts with the things that are emergent, because that is the phase that we are in. That is the course correction, which is you must deal with the emergent things. And the second you get out of emergent, you need to shift over to what is important, and not necessarily emergent, just it's important to me, right? And you get to make that decision, whatever it is. And then you've been through this. I know I've been through this. My rhythm is about every 4 months, I have to go through and retool the time allocation. Like calendar creep happens, or I got distracted by something else, and I have to
sign up for the Frogman, right? And it's like, cool, I got to figure out where I can swim more.
I'm not going to swim.
You don't, or Boucher yesterday is like, what's your project? Well, I'm the level 4.
Right.
Cool. Well, you need to be coaching more.
Yeah, you need to be coaching more.
So
you need to go back on the floor.
This quarter might look a little different. Can I give you one thing that I stole from Cal Newport also?
Yeah.
I wrote, this was his idea, and I called them disciplines. I think he did the same. And you have I have rules for myself. So a lot of this, because Nikki Sharp was on the call, and she was like, accountability buddies. And I was like, I tried not to disagree with Nikki Sharp, because I love her.
I'll disagree with her.
But I was like,
I love you, Nick.
hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
Right? And so I have rules of, for example, I wrote, I wake up when my alarm goes off.
Right.
Right? And it's like, I don't tell you that. I don't need to tell Roz that. It's like, that's a rule. So
I know if I broke that rule.
Yeah, I know if I broke it. I wrote, I read when I wake up, right? Because that prevents me from getting on the phone first, right? But I think everyone should start with their values and then write down some rules for yourself about everything. And again, that seems rigid, but I am rigid in some respects, but this to me doesn't feel like cumbersome.
Well, you're further along the process than most people, which is why it doesn't feel that way anymore. So just to kind of blend those two together, and then we'll go to the third topic. So the plan helps me to have a reason to prioritize my time. And then I look at that 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 time prioritization or time blocking. We're not going to go down that whole rabbit hole that is time blocking, but it is a very valuable skill to learn.
I'll do a podcast on that.
And then I look at that and I say, well, what do I put in this block of time? And I'm like, well, we already decided that when we made the plan, and say, are the things that are in this block of time helping me do this thing over here? And like I mentioned earlier, you will very likely get through that list much faster than you think, at which point I do another evaluation, be like, what else is important to me? There's nothing emergent anymore. What do I now want to put in this block of time? Because getting shit done is addictive.
Right, but getting the right shit
Getting the
done.
right shit done is powerful,
That's a quote. We
right?
should write that down.
I don't have a pen.
Getting shit done is addictive. Getting the right shit done is powerful.
And I think
Jason
that's but I think that this is part of the missing link for people. It's just, you think about the number of affiliate owners. I think about the multiple versions of me as an affiliate owner. The only one that was ever worth a shit was the one that was like working on the right things. And spoiler alert, the right thing will shift many times over the seasons of your affiliate ownership. Sometimes it is like your coaching staff is garbage. Sometimes it is a culture issue in the gym. Sometimes it is you don't know shit about that aspect of your business, and you need to spend 6 months learning your numbers because you don't like P&Ls, or you don't know anything about budgeting. And that is now the important thing. If you want to move to the next phase, that is now a skill set or a gap that you need to fill in order to become the next version of you. And this is why I think that is so important, is because when you have attached those things you're working on to the future outcome that is important to you, whether it is a future version of you or a future version of your business, they now have very intentional meanings behind them, and they're more likely to get done versus I have to draft these emails. I'm like, well, that's really not important, nor is it probably really going to change your life. So pick something else. Like, don't pick that bullshit thing. Pick something that it feels uncomfortable to you.
No, relating it to Best Hour, we just announced our mastermind for
the next date for our mastermind
Vegas in
June.
June.
Vegas in June.
And Cody was like, hey, I think this page needs a different video here.
Which, by the way, Nate, that video is fucking savage.
Breadth and depth of knowledge that they all have. I'm hugely impressed.
Delivers value to your members.
Invaluable. Join this freaking program.
I was like, yeah, that does. I knew on the registration page we wanted a different video, and I was like, I do need to do that Monday. I was traveling this weekend, and then I got to Slack, and Katie and Mark was like, it's live, right? And I was like, okay, I still want that video, but I guess it's not important,
Yeah.
right?
It's
And
done.
I was like,
It's done is done.
I was like, people are signing up, but so it's like just revisiting. Cool. Sometimes is done better than perfect. And
Most of the time, done is better than perfect.
yeah, and also like, is that a valuable use of your time now?
Which leads into the third piece, and we'll kind of tie those together. So know the numbers, right? So you're like, hey, I really want to get this video done. And you're like, hey, 32 people already signed up. And you're like, that number tells me that it's not hindering us getting this launched.
Yeah, now one person asked a question that video would have answered. That's what it was. Like,
Yeah, nor did anybody not sign up because of the video.
and I was like, and I'm like, make that video, or I can send out 5 more emails
Right.
about this. And it was just refocus it. Cool, where can I put my energy to?
And the reason, I'm happy we did them in this order because that wasn't really the plan, but the plan was to talk about these 3 topics, but they do lend themselves to each other. Put out a
There's
plan,
Venn diagram.
put out a plan. That plan then creates a reason to time block, and then that time blocking or that time allocation prioritization exercise lends itself to digging into the information that you need to solve said problem, right? So if it kind of works or think 30,000 feet all the way down into the weeds is really what just happened as we're working through the three of these. But you have to know the numbers, and what I mean by that is you have to know the numbers. You need to know what your cash flow looks like in order to make a decision about that hiring decision that you need to make in 6 months. You need to know what your lead flow looks like and what your conversion or what those percentage breakdowns look like from lead to response rate to consult to join, because you've been on the fence about maybe looking into some paid advertising. Well, my suggestion is you shouldn't even think about paid advertising if you don't know what those numbers are. Like you definitely can't play that game if you're not playing the free game. Thinking about, hey, we want to do Bring a Friend Week on these 3 months. What did last year's Bring a Friend Week numbers look like in those 3 months? Well, the one we did in March had 32. The one we did in June had 27. The one we did in November had 18. Why? Why was that one half?
Yeah, we did it Thanksgiving week, and
right. It's just so knowing the numbers. Say, okay, well, this now leads to adjusting my plan. I said, well, that clearly is a bad place to put that. Doesn't even matter why. Who cares? Like, hey, that workout didn't go well. And I'm, okay, maybe we'll start to figure it out, but like, it just didn't. Okay. Why? Because we had, I did 3 other workouts that day. It had nothing to do with the workout. It was just like, oh, you did.
Or I did.
It was placed in the wrong spot.
The same movements yesterday.
Right. It was placed in the wrong spot. So you start to get into that, and there's virtually nothing inside of the affiliate that if you get bullish about this enough that you cannot start to get some sort of lead metric on, meaning some sort of predictive information that would say, I think if we do this here this way based on that information with good confidence, I can predict the outcome. You don't start there though.
But for the record, anything business related, we are on nearly every platform these days.
We're getting there. We're real close. So we're working on some stuff. Spotify's already on there. Push Press has already got some things in the works, and they're doing a killer job. Yeah, working with all those Zen Planner. So we're trying to get a lot of these things for you guys as affiliate owners that allow you to operate the business effectively and actually, all of this leads into this. I've been chewing on this idea for a little bit.
So breaking news? First time out of Fern's head?
First time in a public forum.
Okay,
so
I'm excited.
I've been having this thought about the term affiliate owner.
Trying to define it?
Nope. I don't think it's a great term.
Tell me more.
When I think about this idea of an affiliate owner, right? Just that owner thing, right? It inherently, to me, doesn't have any action behind it. Right? I own this thing. Okay, so you own it.
Like a car.
So what?
Right.
Right? Does it tell me you own that car? I'm like, does it drive? Right? Does it fucking work? Where is it? Right? Like,
yeah.
I don't care if you own it or not. And I think, being in, this is funny because it's like in our tagline, which is building better boxes. And if you say, hey, we're not like box owners, we're box builders. And the reason I think that is a subtle but really important shift is when I say you're a box builder, that paints a different picture. That's somebody who's like got skill sets, who's doing things.
No, you say car builder, I'm like, oh, you know more than I do. Right.
This is my point. We're just like anybody can own a car.
Right, I just bought mine. You built that?
This is my point. That if we're talking about identity, if you're talking about an identity shift and you want to be somebody who plans and allocates their time and knows the number, you're not a box owner. You're a box builder, because somebody who built something from nothing fucking knows what's going on.
Right, and they know how different aspects of the car interact. Like,
correct.
Well, I can't put that piece here because that piece will counter.
And I've said this 1,000 times. There is literally nothing inside of the affiliate that happens independently of something else. Nothing. And if you think that is true, I have bad news for you. That is wildly incorrect. On the low end, it has overlap to 3 other things. On the low end, it has overlap to 3 other things.
Yeah. Your schedule, you think, cool, budget, cool. Like,
Events have budget. Events have retail, repercussions to them. They have lead generation repercussions to them, which goes into my sales process, which goes into my annual plan, which goes into am I hitting my targets, and how does that adjust my other plans
this
over
is
there?
your website, which
Correct. So I think this idea of
box builder. I don't know if I love box builder.
no, I'm not saying box. I'm not saying that we should
I
change
feel
that.
like you
right?
said this is what we're changing
It is right. We're going to box building university.
BBU.
Yeah. So I think it's more of an identity than anything, and it's because if you think about it, it's like I build, right? Like if somebody's like I own businesses, and then somebody comes along and they say I build businesses.
Well, that's Hormozy, right?
Right. I build businesses, and I'm like, oh, that guy's a savage. He's
Yeah.
a business builder. That means you go in and like you make shit happen.
And you also can look at other businesses and find their flaws
Correct.
and figure out ways to make them better.
And the reason I think that is important, and the reason it has relevance here to this discussion, is because if you are going to make this shift to start addressing these 3 things and propel the box forward, there's probably some conversation to be had about an identity shift. You're currently not the person or the version of the person that you need to be to get where you want to go. And this could help. And I hope it does, which is, hey, yeah, I build affiliates. I build boxes. That's what I do. And then saying, what would that person, what skills would that person have? Oh, they would know this, they would know this, they would know this. And I start to identify as somebody who does those things. And like, oh, they would be diligent with their time. They would take the time to know certain amounts of information. They would plan so they could be proactive. Oh shit. Okay. Well, let me start with the baseline level things that would get me to start doing that, which is start with a plan. The simplest plan that you can come up with. Okay. Block 1 4-hour block in the week if you can make that happen. Group problem solve in order to make that happen. Group problem solve to make that happen. And then start digging into the numbers, the metrics, the information, the trends based on the most important thing that you want to have happen this year. I guarantee that will happen at the end of 12 months. I guarantee if you do those things, you will get to that goal, or very likely, if not well past it, way faster than you think you will.
Here's the thing. A lot of people are going to listen to this. Very few will take action. And I think we often joke around, have fluff in the episodes. I don't think this was one of them. I think if that resonated, scroll back, start again, because if you listen to this and do what we just said, your business is going to grow.
I would even argue this. It would be impossible for it not to.
Well, and I was going to add, you will be a better version of yourself.
A better leader, you'd be better at this skill of building an affiliate. You would be probably a better friend, spouse, parent, whatever.
And this is analogous to how often as a coach are you like, man, that dude's front rack, he needs mobility. Right? And you're like, and they're like, I don't want it. This is the mobility of being an affiliate builder or being a better leader. This right, because I don't say this in jest. You and I, this has been the last literally almost to the day 5 years of our lives.
That's a good point.
Right? Like right now, this is our anniversary.
I didn't get you anything.
I forgot to get you something too. No, I just think like you and I, it would be like, hey, you want to record a podcast? Cool. I'll be in my closet. You know, you'll be at the gym and like Lindsay or Cassidy or somebody would
It's in the background. Yeah.
Right. And little thing. Oh, you got an office. You know, I moved and made my own home office. And then you bring on someone like Marcus, who's like, oh, now we have a budget. What is this thing?
Right.
Right. And he's making us have meetings on time. And
Jay loves some meetings.
But point is, like, we've literally been, and I am a significantly, I don't want to say happier. I am more fulfilled.
That's a fair and accurate statement as somebody who probably knows you better than anybody.
I know it's so weird that you
It is
know me.
weird.
Do you say some shit about me sometimes? I'm like, I was like, how does he know me so well? No, I just like I was like, you could be obliviously happy. I think I'm more intentionally happy.
That's the best kind of happy.
Yeah, but I think I'm way like fulfilled in the sense that I do more of the things I enjoy, all because of these things.
Well, doing all of these things, and this is the ultimate goal, gets you to where you want to go. You're like, oh, I wanted to, I wanted to achieve these goals, and that might be have these things or get this credential or, buy this house or whatever it might be, marry this person, doesn't matter. Dude, that's going to have a plan, and that's going to have a daily plan and series of actions of you being who you said you were going to be in order to do that. And this is why this is so important. And this is why when we sit down with box owners, we take them through all of this process in a much more detailed, to the point where we're like, this is your plan, not for the next year, for the next 6 weeks. And then I'm going to adjust that plan to the point where, like, I want you to be that version of yourself, because that version of yourself is pretty rad.
Isn't it fun to see that happen though?
I mean, I just think about some of the people that, some of the people that have made what seems like insane amount of progress over 2 years.
Too many to name, but I can throw out like Mitch. Right? Like that dude was grumpy AF. And now he's like quite literally one of the happiest people I know. He brought in a GM recently. Like his relationship with his wife and daughter have improved. It's like seeing that. Who'd you say, Luke?
No, I said the Loop.
Oh, CrossFit Loop. I mean, Chauce and Rand. I mean, Louis, like Ryan. So many of our. I mean, I don't want to keep
even more of the newer folks who, they're like, hey, this is the best. Who's it? Kana. He's like, hey, best revenue month we ever had. And
you said that last month.
Yeah. Are you lying to me? You fast forward back 12 months, and this is a young dude who
is 24 years old,
who was like, I think I'm gonna open a gym and a basketball court, and I just need to get 35 members. And then 6 months later, he's at 100, and he's like, this is my best revenue month ever, and we're the most profitable we've ever been. And I said, you're just getting started, bro. Like, you still only know this much.
Dr. Adam.
There's another one,
teaching,
right?
like never, even Jason and Danielle.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not easy. And none of this was easy for you, for me. Like, this was a lot of behind the scenes work. And it's the hustle and silence.
It's a tremendous amount of work, but it's no different than this shit, man. Listen, if you're going to get fit, it's going to be a tremendous amount of work. Yeah. But the point is like, you don't think about all of those things. You need to spend some time putting that plan in place. I want to be able to do X, Y, and Z, whether they're, some sort of physical feat, back squat, pull-ups. I want this Fran score, whatever. And then once you have that, you go back to, what am I doing today in order to get me there? And I already set that plan in place. And I was probably one of the more resistant people to this whole process. I was so averse to the idea of many of these things
because of your Navy.
Correct, because upon exit of the military, and I was like, rules are stupid.
Grow my hair long.
We should all just fly by the seat of our pants for the rest of our lives, because that's how the real world actually works. And I was miserable. I was a very unhappy person because of that, and then started to get a lot of these things in alignment, and then start to see what that does to the people in my immediate orbit, and then how that helps me help other people, and then see that ripple effect go out to those people. Say, oh, my coaches are so happy. Like, everybody's so on board with all the stuff that we're doing. Why? Oh, you spent time to put a plan in place and cast a clear vision that was objectively, sane and logical. Of course they were on board. Why wouldn't they be on board? And it starts with stuff that's very simple, because I know people, and the reason I bring up my story is because I know people will be resistant to this, because it feels so cumbersome and so burdensome to start doing these things, because they inherently have this idea of being restrictive in nature, but they're not. So start with, of those 3 things that we just talked about, whether it's, hey, you're your planning,
I think
your
that's what we
time
should start.
priority,
I agree. I think
their time priority,
plan.
or the numbers. Pick the one that seems the easiest for you to wrap your noodle around and start there, right?
And like anything, you see people, not that we've mastered this or at the finish line, but you're like, that's them. But we were literally just two dummies filming a podcast.
Arguably still two
Which
dummies.
is very much still two dummies that just did a lot of, and like I said, this is not humility. Like, we are humbled to do what we do, but I think one thing that we do well with our clients, like, we're doing this thing, we're in it.
Yeah, you have
just
to.
doing it like
You have to.
a little bit different.
You have to.
But we've battled through it, so no different than when we tell you do the same programming as your members. So we're in it.
So if you're listening to this podcast and this stuff resonated, reach out, book a call. We'd love to chat with you, because if you're struggling to figure out like why you're not, why the gym's not moving in the direction that you want it to, why you feel like every day is just a perpetual turnstile of emergencies that show up to your doorstep and you feel like you just don't know what's going on. The good news is those are all solvable things and we can help you do that. So book a call, talk to Marcus, chat about how we can help you, and you have the opportunity to make 2024 the best year ever, because I still do believe it's a great time to be a CrossFit affiliate. So reach out. We'd love to help you build a better box, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Thanks for checking out this episode of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. We appreciate you listening and choosing to have us help you in your passion for coaching and affiliate ownership. You can find more episodes just like this on all podcast platforms. If you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to us on any social media platforms, or you can visit www.besthouroftheirday.com to book a call. If you found this episode helpful for you, please share it so that we can help other coaches and affiliate owners to help build a bigger and stronger CrossFit community. Thanks for listening.